So good morning, students. Let us start. So anyone, any questions or some observation in the last session? Anybody? Anything that you want to discuss? Nothing. Okay. So in the last session, what we have discussed is basically we finished our interfaces and basic OOPS concept in a very abstract way, and then we started with the variables, right? And what we have seen there was that in Java, we know that object stores their state in a field, and those fields are also called as variable, right? And here we are going to discuss about relationship between what are the variables, what are different kind of variables available in Java, and how do we name them, what are basic data types available. So this is all what we are going to learn today. This is again that we have discussed that field and variable both are commonly used. So one more thing that we'll learn today is field, variable, and a non-instance variable. So these are three things that are basically
Hello, sir, excuse me, you're not audible. Hello, sir, you aren't
Hello, excuse me, Ravi sir. Hello.
Hello? So was I muted? Hello?
Yeah, sir. You were not audible.
So
Now
you
you are audible.
people, please anybody turn on the mic?
Hello?
Hello, yes, sir. So we tried calling you
Anyone
also.
please turn on the mic? I cannot hear you.
Hello.
That's why maybe you, I just saw my phone was just again and again ringing. I thought it's something urgent. You are not audible. Let me see. Hello? Please someone speak Dibyasam.
Hello, yes, sir. Sir, am I
Paritosh?
audible?
Just wait a second. Let me reconnect, okay? Dibyasam, please speak better. Anybody
Hello,
turn on your
hello,
mic?
yes, sir. Sir, am I audible?
I can see it
Hello.
here. Hello? Hello? Divyasam, once more better?
Hello, hello, yes,
Yes,
sir.
yes.
Yes,
Yes,
yes, sir,
better. Now
fine.
you're
It's
audible.
audible. Okay.
So from starting only, I was not audible at all.
Sir, from the point where you started explaining about variables. Yeah, from starting, sir.
Okay. Okay. Okay then. Sorry, we'll start again. And I was just put my phone on silent so that there was no disturbance. But thank you, you all called there. Okay, we'll start from here again, from the variables. So we were discussing that these are the type of variables which we are going to discuss: instance variables, class variable, local variable, and parameters, right? So first of all, instance variable and class variable, right? So we also call them non-static field or static field. So how I was explaining them was that suppose within the university, this is the notice board of the university, the notice board, right? Well, let me, we already drawn it, right? So this is what I was explaining. This is the notice board. Onto the notice board, we have a date sheet, suppose, right? This date sheet contains obviously the schedule of your examination. What happens is, just imagine it is not secured. It is just a piece of A4 sheet that is stick to the notice board. What may happen is one student came in here and do some like he writes something over it, maybe XYZ. Then because he can read it, whatever is written, he is also able to write over it. It was not secured at all. Later on, some other student come, he sees something inconsistent. Maybe some student did a prank, he made some date, there was maybe any date, maybe 1 March, so he made it 10th March, just a prank, maybe very finely. And then third student read this particular date sheet and he thinks that okay, the exam is on 10th March. So what will happen now? There is an inconsistency, and because of that inconsistency, the thing was, it was accessible to all of them, but if they were all were allowed to read and write, obviously everyone is going to do some prank, and this would be very inconsistent state, right? Someone would write, someone would delete something, etc., etc. So that's why there is a lock there. So only some specific people can post something onto this notice board that anyone can see. So this is first part, read write operations and who all can see. Second thing, because it is a notice board at university, anyone coming into the university like faculties, visitors, or maybe some staff, cleaning staff, whatever it is, they all can come. When they are passing this notice board, they can see what is written here. So read only access is given to everyone. No matter they are like visitors, might not be the member of this class at all. They might not be the member of university at all, but still they can see this particular thing. Why? Because this is on the notice board, something which is available. If they can come here, they can access it. So these kind of things are what are the static variables, the class level properties that are accessible to everyone, irrespective of the class that they belong to. If they can come here anyhow nearby to this particular class, if they can access university, if someone is in the USA and he can come India and Dehradun and Bidoli and to the UPS, they can access it, right? So other things are different, that they will not get visa to India. That's a separate story. But if they are able to come here, they can see it, right? On the other hand, we have something called as instance variable. These are static variables available through with the class level property, available to everyone who can have access to the class. On the other hand, we have something called as instance variable. Like for the same notice, all of you might be receiving an email for the same notice. Now, n number of students are there. Every student will receive an email, and that email is what? A instance. At any point of time, it was given to you. So what you can do, you can basically make a print out of your email, do whatever changes you are doing here, do whatever prank you want to do, but that would be only stick to you. It will not be affected to other emails, right? And these kind of variables that are individual for every object, within every object, that is what an instance variable is. So anyone, a visitor coming to university, cannot access your email, yes or no? This is an individual thing only given to the students. So this is how this is secured. But these kind of things are accessible to everyone. Even a student can access, even a staff can access, a visitor can access. So this is the basic difference between the instance variable and the class variables. On the other hand, how all of this is allocated in the memory is, suppose we have a class A that might have a static int z variable or maybe an int x variable. So the memory allocation would be something like this. If I say I will create an object of A class, or I will create another object of A class, this is how we create object. I told you that we'll discuss how the objects are created, constructors in detail, but this is a syntax. We have already discussed it. What is going to happen for both of these? Within my entire RAM, there is going to be created two objects, one with the name obj, another with the name obj2. This will contain, both of them will contain x, the known static variables, the instance variable. Z will never be inside that memory location. Z will stay somewhere else in a static memory, somewhere else, right? at any point of time, if I say obj dot x is equal to 10, that actually means I am referring to this x. So I'm only changing its value. If I say obj dot x, obj2 dot x is equal to 20, so I'm exactly referring to this one. It has no effect on the previous one. These are individual copies of both of them because they are instance variable. But if I say obj dot z is equal to 10, obj dot z. So obj is what? Obj is a member of this class A. So I can access this and it will change 10. Even if I say obj2 dot z is equal to 20, because z is a static variable. So this is also going to refer to the same thing. It will override its value. However, whatever we are writing here, this will work. But when you compile your program, you will find a warning here. Because this is a class level variable. You should not be accessing it through the object. You should access it through the class property only. It is just for understanding that, okay, this is also how it works. The reason being simple, if anything that is even available to the visitors, why it cannot be available to the student? Student is itself the member of this university. They can for sure see it, right? But it is a public kind of a thing that is accessible to everyone. This will work, no problem, but with the warning. They will suggest you, because writing this in your code is somehow giving a reflection that I am talking about a instance variable. So this is how we access instance variable. So we should not be accessing the static variable like this. If I have to access z, I should be writing a dot z is equal to 10. Here or here, wheresoever I want to write, I should be writing like this only. So see, things are more meaningful now. You can see here. However, this code is not wrong, but ethically it is wrong. Understand the difference. If you see these two lines, if I give you these two lines of code, you might be thinking that, okay, see, this is in small letters, it is written, and it is obj.z. It is an object, object.variable. So it should be an instance variable. It gives us this reflection that it should be an instance variable, but actually it is not. It is a class variable. That's why we should always use it like this, that with the class name .z. So anyone seeing this code can understand it is written in capital, so it is a class, and it is a class level variable. And this thing written in small letters, it should be an object, and it is calling any variable through the object. That means it is an instance variable, which actually it is not. So in execution, it is correct, but for someone reading this code, it is wrong. So that's why there is a warning, not the error. That if you are referring to a class variable, you should be using a class name. Understood? Is it clear, all of you? So this thing is really important. Later, we are going to discuss somewhere this thing. This is what we generally write, right? System.out.println. So see here, what you can infer out of it, what this looks like. Is it a class or an object? System. Is it a class or an object? Class. Right. So I'll just come back to this in next slide, because we have variable name nomenclature we have not discussed. I forgot that part. So that's why I'll come back to this again. Don't worry, we'll discuss it again. So these are two types of variable, non-static and static. Third is the local variable. So any variable that is inside any functions or any block, that is a local variable. And the variables which are in the parenthesis of a function are called as the parameter, right? Moving ahead. So this is what I was saying, the naming rules. So first of all, why do we read these rules and why it is required? Again, because of readability. Your code should be readable. Whatever code you are going to write, someone else is for sure going to work on it. So the code should be readable even without compiling. Anyone by just looking at your code should understand what the things are, what they are doing. So that's why we always say, always use meaningful names for the variables. So we say, okay, sum, percentage, like this, right? So they are meaningful. Somehow they are giving an impression that this variable will store the sum. So it makes to read our program easier. Just imagine you create any program and all the variables are like this: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. And in K you are storing sum. So only after looking at the complete program, reading it very carefully, one can understand that K means your sum. So that would be a problematic situation. You are wasting your time in something irrelevant. Your program should be so much describable that anyone can read it, right? It should not be like a Shashi Tharoor's English, as simple as that, right? So variable names are case sensitive. Similar, if I create a variable with the name sum and a variable with the name sum, these are different because they have something small and caps, right? It is case sensitive. Second rule, a variable name can be any legal identifier, an unlimited length sequence of Unicode letters and digits. Unicode, I'll come to it, beginning with the letters, the $sign, and the underscore characters with no white space permitted. So the rule is either it can be A to Z or A to Z or dollar or underscore. These are the first character of the variable, class, or function. First character. Following this, it can be of any length practically. After first character, there is one more thing that you can have 0 to 9 values also, right? Any of these things plus any digit. So subsequent characters may be letter, digit, $sign, or underscore. It is recommended to always start your variable's name with one of these two things. Any alphabet should be there for the very first character. It is recommended, but allowed is these two also. Why they are not recommended? Because they are again given for some special purpose. Later on, you will see there is some anonymous class that would be using dollar in its name. If there is some automatically generated classes through the system, they will contain underscore in the beginning. So again, they also give some meaningful information to the reader that these classes are something that are generated automatically or some anonymous class. So once we'll discuss them, we'll see how they are appended automatically. Even if we write, not a problem, but it is not suggested that you write a variable with the name $sum. It is correct, but not recommended, right? Then use camel casing. So what is this camel casing basically? So whenever, suppose I say sum of student, suppose I want to create a variable int sum of student. If we write like this, so obviously white space is not permitted. So space cannot be there. Then the variable would be sum of student. Maybe I'll write more in class at UPS. If without any space, if I'm going to create a variable with such a bigger name, what will happen? We'll have problem in reading them one word at a time. How can we know that okay, this is a separate word, this is a separate word, right? So for this reason, in English also we have space, we have comma, we have full stop, so that while we are reading a longer sentence, there should be a comma in between. We take a breath there, then a full stop, a longer breath we'll take there, right? So similarly here also, what they say, one thing, because we have underscore permitted. So one way is I can create a variable like this, int sum underscore of student. So this is correct. We can have it like this. But another good way is, why we are wasting two more characters in our source code length? We can have it like this. Sum, and the rule is second word onwards. Your entire first word should be in small. Second word onwards, the first character of any word should be capital. Sum of student in any variable, whatever we make. So by this capital character, we can understand, okay, some new word is starting. So this is somehow behaving like in space in between the two words. This is how we differentiate that, okay, this is new word starting. So if there is any variable name or a function name that is more than one word, we would be using camel casing. Camel, C is capital C, casing, like this. Only And if there is only a single word variable name, it should all be in small. This is the rule, right? Again, further we have to differentiate whether this is a function or a variable. So obviously, if this contains parenthesis at the last, it is a function, otherwise it is a variable. As simple as that. If I say parenthesis comes here, it becomes a function. If parentheses are not there, it becomes a variable. So this is the rule. Rule implies to both functions and variable names the same rules, whatever we have just discussed. For classes, the rule is that name will begin with a capital character. So it should be like this. For variables, first thing was always small. For class name, even the first word is always capital, right? This is how we differentiate between classes and variables and functions. So now see, correlate this thing. If I write system dot out dot println, this is how we write our code. Now, just by having ethics in our mind, we do not want to discuss anything else. Just by having ethics, can you tell me what kind of a variable this is? Is it a variable or not, or what kind of this variable is? Just by having the knowledge of what all we have discussed in last 10 minutes. What is out? Object, static. Yes, object it is. Static it is. So Ganesh has a question mark there. Is it correct? Anyone else? See again. What we have discussed, there are two types of variables, majorly instance variable, or we say non-static, and static variables, right? Tell me, what kind of a variable is this? Out. For that, you have to look at system, and then you have to revisit how should we access static variables, and everything comes up in one answer, right? Static. So now remember my words, what I said you previously, that whenever you are accessing, the ethical way of accessing any static variable is use it through class. So here we can understand, if S is capital, so definitely this system is not an object. This system do not have a parenthesis, so it is not a function. So that means S is, so, and third thing, S is capital. So all of these three conditions led us, okay, this is a class. Then with the dot operator, we access any member variable. I am saying out. And we can see this is all in small because it is a single word. So that means it is a variable, it is an object. Whatever it is a sort of a variable, but we are accessing it through the class dot out. So that means it is a static variable. Then, as someone said, it is an object. Again, within the object also, there could be something dot println. So if it was still here only, then we would think what it is. So if it is within the object without parentheses, we would say it is a instance variable. But it also has a parenthesis. So it is not an instance variable, it is a function. Just by looking at the nomenclature and remembering these rules, we can understand what we write in our code is, right? Okay, function static we have not discussed yet, leave it. So this is how all it is. Understood? Just by looking at the nomenclatures and the rules, keeping in mind, we can just see the code and we can tell directly what it is. We don't have to remember that out is a static function of system class. Just by looking at it, we can tell it, right? So suppose I have some class. This is some syntax which I have written here. What is this? First character capital, right? Second character capital, this is some name. So this seems to be some class. Yes. So why I asked this question is basically the class and interface both share same nomenclature. I told you when we compile, we'll see later, when we compile the interface, it will also create a class, dot class file. So class and interface both are some sort of a same thing. Interface is something abstract sort of a class. That's it. Okay. So it can either be an interface or a class, but it is for sure not an object or function, right? This is in small, so it is an variable. Later we'll call it as an object, but basically we call it as a reference variable. It's a reference variable. It stores the reference of whatever is created from here. Again, buffered reader, see, and then there is a parenthesis. So what is this thing? Something, yes, it is a constructor specifically. See, it is a constructor specifically. There are two ways, because how you can understand this, somewhere first word is capital, second word is capital, so it should be a class, and if after the class there is a parenthesis, for sure it is a constructor. That's a different story, that constructors are functions. But for functions, we have learned that if it was a function, normal function, it should be something like this: buffered reader. Yes or no? If it was an ordinary function, first word should be in small, but it is a constructor. That's why its first letter is also in capital. That is the difference between a function and a constructor. Understood? Are you getting my point? See, if this was just a function, then this should be small. But if it is capital, so we think it should be a class. And if any class name having a parenthesis after it, it is a special function that is called as a constructor. Okay. And now coming inside this system.in. So what is the system? Again, what is system? A class. What is this in? Class.in. Object, obviously. What kind of object? Static object. Perfect. We are calling this object with the class name, so it is static. That is something special about it. Obviously, it is an object we are accessing through the dot thing, but it is a static object. So this is what you have to remember always. Just by having ethics in mind, we can dig out many things out of it, right? So that is why. And the last thing is your constant will be in capital. So we have seen in the lab also, processor count, it was written in capital. So whatever variables you create, like in C language also, you must have done hash define pi space 3.14. So you always write pi into capital pi. The reason is you are defining a constant. So whatever constant you create, they should be in capital. Okay. Next comes the primitive data types. So what do we mean by primitive? Anyone? What do we mean by primitive? Built-in. Something that is already there, right? So that is primitive. So there is one question, whether Java is a purely object-oriented language, yes or no? Yes, yes, yes. Anyone with a no? Why, Paritosh? Turn on the mic, Paritosh. Paritosh, turn on the mic, beta. Am I audible? %99%. Is this the answer to my audibleness or to the Java being oops? Paritosh. Okay. So see, there's no specific answer to this. Basically, this is a debatable question, that whether it is completely object oriented or not. So the reason is because of the primitives. So if we say any language is a purely object oriented, then what is the use of these data types there? They are not objects, they are primitive data types. So Any language that has these kind of things cannot be said to be purely object-oriented language, right? So the first thing is, this is the reason it is not purely object-oriented. The second answer would be coming somewhere in unit 3rd. That would be the wrapper classes. So Java provides wrapper classes that can convert any primitive thing to an object. And if in any of our programs we are not using any primitive and are only using wrapper classes for these things, then that program is completely object oriented. If we use a primitive inside it, it is not completely object oriented. Understood? As simple as that. Okay. So because of having primitives, it is not completely object oriented. But if we do not write any of these in our program, if we do not take these variables and instead take the wrapper classes, we'll discuss in detail what wrapper classes are. And in fact, in your lab also, you have used this integer.parseInt, right? You all have used. So this is what a wrapper class is about. It is a class that is similar to your int kind of a thing, but that works on the object. Okay. So this was about primitives and this thing. So first thing is Java is statically typed. So what is the meaning of statically typed? Anyone? What do we mean by statically typed language? I'll again emphasize, focus on the word always. Statically. There's a static word here. Have to define type of variable before using it. Yes. So statically means, see, whenever there's a term called a static, it is something related to compile time. Right? When we create a static variable also, it is created at compile time. It is a class level property. If it is non-static, it will be created at runtime while your program is in execution. So whenever there's a static kind of a thing, everything is in the compile time only. Remember this thing. So statically typed means if in your program you directly say a is equal to 10 and you try to compile it, then at compile time you will find out the error that you have not defined the type of a, undefined type a found. So you have to write here something like this, int a is equal to 10, only then it will work. Whereas in language like Python, you can directly say let a be 10, as means as like this only, a is equal to 10. What it will do, when actually this line will be executed, Python interpreter will see 10 is an integer, and in the backend it will automatically fix that int a is equal to 10. It happens at runtime. Before execution, no one knew what kind of a variable a is, but during execution, it is automatically adjusted. So this is not statically typed, this is statically typed. In Java, at compile time, you have to fix this thing. You cannot have a variable without declaring it. Right? That is the meaning of statically typed language. So any language that requires your variable to be defined and declared during your compilation time, that is statically typed language. Python is not, because you do not have to declare the type of the data. Clear? So Java is a statically typed language. The variable data type determines value it may contain. So if I'm writing int a, so we can determine that a will contain an integer value. It is fixed. Java programming language supports 8 primitive data types. So these are the 8 primitive data types that Java supports: byte, short, int, long, float, double, boolean, and character. These all are supported by Java. Okay. And one thing I said before regarding the Unicode. So for that, what we need to understand is, in C language, if I say int a is equal to 10, suppose, and it is working on Windows, where integer variable is of 2 bytes. What is the limit of values a can hold inside it? What is the scale that you remember? What all a can contain within? Two to the power 16 minus 1. So it minus 1 is in power or lower? Dibya Som. Format correctly using board mass. Use brackets. to make it more precise. Divyasomam, correct it? 2 to the power 16. Now it is correct, right? So basically, see, if you have any doubt in this, please ask. If you have a 2 bytes based integer variable, so how this used to happen is the limit that you have seen was 32,667, including 0 to plus 32,668, something like this, right? I might be wrong at these two places, but this is the amount of value that your variable can hold. And the reason behind this was that if you have 2 bytes, that means 16 bits. So one variable will have these 16 bits inside itself. 15 bit. So if you see here, if I write 2 to the power 16, this is 65,536. So this is amount of decimal value that you can store in 16 bits. I hope you understand this thing. If I have just 1 bit, then 2 things you can store inside it, 0 and 1. If you have 2 bits, 0001, 1011. And similarly for 16, you can store 65,536. But if you can store 65,536, so you will have to require all 16 bits. How about these negative values? And that is why you see it is not 64,000, it is 32,000. So what's happened is the remaining 15 bits are used for value, and the last most significant bit, this 1 bit, is your sign bit. If it is 1, it is positive value. If it is 0, it is negative value. So the result is 2 to the power 15. So 32,768. So minus and plus, that depends upon the sign bit. Okay. So about allocation of this thing. Similarly, if I talk about a character variable, if I say char ch, in C language, it is 1 byte, or we can say 8 bit. So 8 bit is equal to 2 to the 256, right? We all know that character contains 1 byte, 1 byte is equal to 8 bit, 8 bit is equal to 256. That is from 0 to 255. So how ABCD are stored in C language? Tell me, how ABCD are stored in C language? ASCII codes, right? What is the ASCII range? Starting from where to where? Exactly. So 2 to 0 to 255, inclusive of 0, these are 256 values, exactly the same. So we know that small a is somewhere at 65, capital A is somewhere at 97. So this is how a complete list is created, starting from 0, 1, 2 till 255. Every digit has some symbol inside it. That's the symbol basically. 65 means this symbol. Computer do not know ABCD also, that only know binary, right? So okay, I might be wrong, no problem. So computer do not know these ABCD or all of these things, right? Let me correct. This is 97, this is 65, okay? So computer do not know these things, this A, B, C, D, anything. It just knows about, okay, there is a table that states 65 is equal to capital A. Okay, so based upon that, basically, your entire strings are formed. And the limitation here was just 1 byte, 256 bit. And in C language, we used ASCII table. In Java, you must have seen your Java programs also contain your Hindi alphabet, A, A, E, right? How this happens? It also contains your Chinese alphabet. It also contains most of the language character sets. So this is only because in Java, we support Unicode. Unicode is of 2 bytes. So how many possible things are there? 65,536. So Unicode list is bigger, a whole lot bigger than the ASCII list. That's why Java supports all languages character set within itself. Right? Our English has 26 letters, Hindi again has 52, 53 something. So similarly, all the languages that ever have these kind of symbols, rupee symbol, dollar symbol, everything is there in Unicode. That's why in Java, we can create an application that supports multiple languages, and that is what is mentioned here, that char 16-bit Unicode character. Okay, previously also this thing came in, that Unicode, where I said I'll discuss it later. An unlimited length sequence of Unicode letters. Even your variable name can be any sequence, but only permitted symbols are the letters, A, B, C, D, English letters, because we code in a high level language related, connected to English only, right? So all of these are the types in the primitive general which are supported there. Then comes another important thing, that are literals. So what are basically literals? Literals is something, Divya song, turn on the mic.
Hello, yes, sir.
Yes. Better tell me your phone number.
So 96687 66409.
Yes. So see, I have not remembered it, don't worry. But see, he has taken some space in between. Whatever number was there, space something. Or on the other hand, he would be saying 9866889966. So it would be very hard for me to remember to listen and for him to speak. Right? We always have some pattern in listening and saying something. If you have to count something, you will only remember. If I ask a credit card number, you will always tell in number of fours. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 9, 10, 11, like this, something like this, right? So same happens here. Again, things are connected to the readability, right? So these two slides are regarding these things only. So first of all, how we can ensure the readability? If in our program, I want to store an hexa value, so these are the literals that are supported. By default, decimal is there. See, the variable type is integer. 26 is a decimal. So integer literal is of type long if it ends with L or L. Otherwise, it is of type int. Prefix 0x indicates hexadecimal, 0b indicates binary, right? So see, if I'm writing 26, it is stored in whatever format it is, but we can see this is a 26 number only. If I say int hex value, suppose 10, so I will read it by journal as a 10. But if I write 0x before it, it becomes an hexadecimal number, right? Representing something in other number system. If I write 0b10, it becomes a binary. So there is also one saying like this. So what is this written? There are one or types of people, one who knows binary and others who don't. What does it mean? Tell me this statement. No. So what you are going to read this thing? Tell me how you are reading this part. What is this written? Right. So see, those who are reading it as 2, they know binary, and those who are reading it 10, they are not getting it right now. Ganesh, I know you know binary, but you are not getting it right now. Basically, this is written in binary, right? 1 and 2. So this is written by 2 in binary. So there are two types of people, one who know binary and other who don't. So this is the context here. Got it? So this is something to increase the readability so that we can express. Suppose I have written, must have written here 0b, then you will for sure read it in binary only. So how do we ensure this thing in our program? This is how we ensure these things. Understood? So any long value will contain L after it, any float value will contain F after it. So these are the rules for the literals. For the other thing that saying about this is this. Suppose you have to store a credit card number in a variable. So obviously you can store it like this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, L. But to improve the readability, you can see how easy it is to look. Otherwise, it should be written something like this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sometimes what happens, number is like this 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 4, 4, 2, 2, 2, 2, like this. So it is very hard to read this value 1. Then we say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 2, 2 times 4, 4 times 2. This is how we read them. If I'm correct, I do like this only. Otherwise, the good way would be to make it like this 1, 2, 2, underscore 2, 2, 4, 4, underscore 2, 2, 2, 2. So this underscore kind of a space or a comma or a semicolon in our statement. And this is only for ease of readability. It do not affect anywhere in your program. Compiler will ignore these things. So this is why you will find these. So if you have done some mobile programming, you must have seen there are UUIDs and they are long in nature, and you will find them written like this only, having underscore in between. So that is not anything special. That is only to ensure readability. If you write it without it or with it, it will not impact any of your programming performance. It is only to make the developer read this code more easily. If I have to write 3.1415, I can write it like this 3.14, sorry, underscore 15. Some hexadecimal bytes, you can obviously see they are more readable now. We can easily read them. 0x7FFF underscore. So in credit card number, if you must have seen, when you enter some credit card number on website, it gives you 4 blocks to enter so that it is easier for you to write. You do not forget any number in between. So that is ease of readability. So these are the rules for this, that at beginning or end of a number, you cannot place them adjacent to the decimal point. So somewhere here, 3 point underscore, not possible. In the end before F or L, somewhere before L, not possible. And in the position where string of digit is expected, not possible. Understood? So again, these things looks like they are of no use, but they are of much use when we go towards complex programming and we focus more on the readability part. Okay. So this is all what we have discussed about variables. The Java programming language use both field and variable as part of its terminology. Instance variable are non-static field. Class variables are the static field. Local variables store temporary state inside a method. Parameters are variables that provide extra information to a method, so within the parentheses. Both local variable and parameter are always variables, not fields. One thing to be added, right? Local and parameters are always variable. We will never call them field because field are class level properties. So from here we can conclude that only the instance variable are called as field, the non-static one. When naming your field or variable, rules should be followed that we have discussed. 8 primitives are available. And again, important point. The compiler will assign reasonable default value for field of the above types. For local variable, a default value is never assigned. So if within your class, you have this variable A, it would be assigned some reasonable default value, that is 0. Without even assigning. This was the question in the beginning of this session, whether it will be assigned or not. But if you have some function that contains variables B or C, so these are parameters, they will never be assigned any default value, never. Only fields are assigned the values, okay? Or maybe within the if block, somewhere you said int Z. So this variable will also never get default value initialized, okay? A literal is a source code representation of a fixed value. So literal is a source code representation of a fixed value, whatever you want to represent in a vector way. So next part is just for 10 minutes. We'll discuss it in the next session. It's already 11 now. So that all time wasted in recording, right? So thank you and have a good day.